Welcome to Doctoring the Truth, the podcast where we pull back the curtain on healthcare gone wrong. I'm your host, Jenna Tennell, and with me is my delightful co-host, Amanda House. We're two doctors of audiology here to bring you inside real-life cases where once trusted healthcare providers veered off the ethical path into criminal territory.
Hello.
Amanda! Welcome, Alley Cats. It's
back
spooky
to school season. We got
Huh?
the germs.
Back to school, germies. Oh, honey, you sound awful.
Actually,
Sorry.
you know how when you wake up
Oh,
and
you
you
poor
first
thing.
try to talk and you were like, ooh, that's not good. And then you talk throughout the day. So like, actually, this sounds really good right now. Yesterday, I was like, ooh, I can't hardly talk. Me.
You're like, me. Instead of your normal. Oh, wow. Yeah, no, that's basic.
If I try to go high, she cuts out.
You're basic.
I was
Not
trying
basic.
to talk to my niece on FaceTime and, using the Mother East voice, and I like just cut out. I was like, nope. She's like,
probably a little creeped out by this.
Auntie
Auntie
wish she
needs to
could
go back to
sleep
bed.
because accompanying this cold is a headache. You guys know how it feels.
Oh.
You know when your pillow's a boulder. Yeah.
Yeah. That's awful. Oh, well, dang those little petri dishes of germs, those students.
One of these
Getting
years,
y'all
maybe I'll be immune one of these years.
I don't know. I think these
do.
kids keep inventing new germs as they go. Well, bless your heart. Well, the good thing is that I can let you take a back seat. Listeners, there may not be
Which
as
I
much
hope you're
banter
sad about, but
today, unless we,
I guess if not, you're welcome.
Yeah. But honestly, we can just jump right in and put everyone out of their misery, because I know you're on your edge of your seats about part 2. Dr. Anthony Pignataro, our snap on, snap off.
Also,
sociopath of a
this
surgeon.
is not really a correction per se, but my caption for the last post was, okay, Frank. I said something like, okay, Frankenstein. But it's because Jenna said to me, just personally, I thought it was on the recording, that, and maybe you're going to say this later, so I'm sorry if I ruin it, but they called him Frankenstein in jail. And so that's why I said that. Jail. But I was like, I wonder if people are like, that's weird that she said that. But
yeah, I think we're gonna mention it, but yeah, they wouldn't let him wear his toupee in jail. So he's just this bald head with 4 bolts coming out in various areas.
When I was listening to this back, I was just picturing like if he caught a breeze, maybe he gets like under there, kind of like like a flying squirrel, kind of like hanging out on all corners.
Yeah.
Yes.
Like when we used to play those parachute games in elementary school. Okay, everybody, 1, 2, 3, lift. Yeah. I mean, it's a spectacle. It's spectacular. I mean, yeah. If he did anything for society, he at least gave us a giggle for that. Even though he's dire person who did not contribute much other than that. So, not to bring it down.
Oh my God.
Down. Oh, there you go. Oh God, you're so creepy. Listen, gonna need to get sick around October 31st.
Just sit in my garage with my phone.
Yeah. Do we have any other corrections? I completely
Jenna,
whisked over the correction section, but that's a good one. Did we do anything else? Oh, sure. Okay. We'll just say that for now. Meanwhile, we're going to talk about Stand Plus shoes because I haven't thought of a good segue at stand.com that are built for anyone on their feet all day. Like Amanda and myself, healthcare workers, service pros, athletes, or anyone seeking lasting comfort. Founder Rob Gregg designed them after grueling 16-hour mailroom shifts left him with blisters and back pain. Stand shoes are made with XL extra light material that are 3 times lighter than most shoes, and custom ortholite insoles with 7 millimeters of extra arch support. Stand Plus reduces joint strain by dispersing energy rather than storing it. They are ranked number 1 in lab tests for comfort and pressure reduction. Their shoes are slip resistant on dry and oily surfaces, fluid resistant, and machine washable. They have ventilation holes, moisture wicking insoles, and antimicrobial protection to keep them fresh and breathable. Perfect for long shifts or post-workout recovery, Stand Plus delivers cloud-like comfort for 12 or more hours. They've been twice honored by Fast Company and featured in Forbes' Next 100. Stand Plus represents cutting-edge footwear innovation. Get them today. Visit standshoes.com for 15% off using our exclusive code that we're giving to our beloved listeners, our beloved Alley Cats. Our code is Stay Suspicious, STAYSUSBICIOUS. Standshoes.com with promo code Stay Suspicious. So today, our sources will be listed in our show notes as usual, but the main source is again Last Chance, the novel by Anne Rule. And trigger warnings, the episode will discuss emotional abuse, medical malpractice, and moida. So be warned. So to recap, born into privilege as the son of a prominent Buffalo surgeon, Anthony Pignataro seemed destined for medical greatness. But the reality was far darker. He could only secure admission to an unaccredited medical school in Puerto Rico, and he failed out of 3 separate residencies, earning the chilling label of medical sociopath, and yet still managed to forge credentials to practice medicine. Patients paid the price in deaths and disfigurements. Pignataro briefly tasted fame and fortune with his bizarre invention, the snap-on toupee, but behind the glossy marketing lay a man who performed dangerous surgeries in his basement operating room, including a liposuction surgery so botched that it nearly killed patient Terry Lamati. Colleagues and loved ones described a pattern of grandiosity, blame shifting, and a startling lack of empathy. His wife, Debbie, bore the brunt of his emotional abuse, even as she propped up his fraudulent career and raised their children. Exploiting loopholes and deception, Pignataro constructed a house of cards masquerading as a medical practice, one that would ultimately collapse spectacularly and horrifyingly.
I was going to say, are you catching my germs?
You're rubbing off on me. I'm getting all gravelly. Yeah. This week is part 2, where we explore the homicide case that became Anthony's undoing and a twist that will send a chill
twist
straight down your spine. Unconcerned about his mishap resulting in the almost fatal sepsis of patient Terry Lamati, Anthony set about looking for the next flashy trend in plastic surgery that would earn him more money and bolster his fame. He attended conferences on a relatively new technique for breast augmentation called TUBA, which stands for transumbilical breast augmentation. And I feel like you talked about this. I was going to look it up. Was it episode 20 about your plastic surgeon also gone wrong? Okay. Anyway, so TUBA involves tunneling a cannula from the belly button to the armpit area next to the breast, and then expanding the endoscope to widen the area to push a tightly folded sac into the area of augmentation to fill it with saline. This approach would significantly reduce scarring. Anthony visited one practitioner, to observe a couple procedures, and then decided, well, he was ready. I mean, he could provide that service himself. After all, he sat through a lecture, watched a couple. I mean, you're totally prepared, right? He'd been shoving underwires into female corpses for years, so there was no need for hands-on practice. Why not practice on the patients so you can make money at the same time? I'm so mad. An article by one of the pioneers of the surgery highlighted that the advantages of this approach include minimizing risks like bleeding, infection, and poor healing, as the procedure is less invasive than the traditional approach. But he warned that the greatest danger of any implant surgery is that it's done by someone who is not qualified to do it. In his article, he expressed deep concern about the fact that many surgeons were taking a weekend course and then going on to do it themselves. He sagely advised the general public that a patient can die from any type of anesthesia and any kind of surgery, and that every potential patient should check out the qualifications of the surgeon and the anesthesiologist, which is good advice, but that's assuming that there was an anesthesiologist involved. Anthony felt they were unnecessary. That was an unnecessary expense. He told Debbie he could easily show her what to look for while the patient was out, and there was no need to have nurses and other qualified staff on site.
Oh my gosh.
It would just
Debbie,
needlessly add to the expense of the procedure. I know. For each procedure, Anthony only had 3 possible assistants: a 22-year-old LPN with no prior experience, his wife with no formal training, and a 17-year-old high school student interested in maybe becoming a doctor someday. In the real world, medical assistants play a crucial role in the outcome of any surgical procedure. They are RNs and physicians and are a requirement for any licensed facility. Minor mistakes in surgery can be life-threatening to the patient and may result in the surgeon losing their license. But no matter, Anthony was in the business of pinching pennies to make money. Also, I couldn't imagine him taking the advice of an actual qualified medical assistant, given his grandiose sense of self. His ego did not allow for advice or other people's opinions. There was never enough space in the room for that. Let's talk about Sarah Smith. Sarah Smith was a slender, beautiful woman, tall, clear blue eyes, and blonde hair. She'd been a cheerleader in high school, and her friends and family described how that role perfectly fit her personality. She was positive, she had a sunny disposition, she was friendly to everyone, compassionate and energetic. She was close with her family, especially her brother David, who was 4 years her senior. Tragically, David had muscular dystrophy, which is a progressive disease. So throughout their childhood, Sarah took on the role of David's friend, confidant, and protector, according to her father, Russell. Sarah met Dan as a senior in high school while cheering for his basketball team, and it was love at first sight. They began dating in high school and kept up their relationship, even though long distances were difficult while they were both attending colleges in different towns. Sarah's brother David died in February 1990 before he could graduate from college. In June that year, Dan and Sarah married. They had their first child, Nathan, shortly afterwards. Sarah was an optimist, and Dan describes her as his soulmate who taught him how to look at life positively. Dan was tall, with broad shoulders and handsome, and Sarah appeared docile and quiet until he got to know her. Her mother-in-law, Sandy, recalled she was feisty. She was firm emotionally. She and Dan decided what they wanted out of life together. Dan worked as a drafter, designer, and Sarah worked for a law firm. They both worked full-time and had a business together that they started in college, creating solutions for companies that wanted to ship products like heavy machinery and ensure that those products arrived in good condition. We called it DSS for Dan and Sarah Smith, Dan said. By August of 1995, they had saved enough for a down payment on their first home. Sarah took on the legal legwork for the purchase, which saved the couple money. They were thrilled. Dan built a shed out back for his man toys, and Debbie discovered that she loved gardening. She spent hours planting flowers and landscaping. She called it their potluck garden because there was a whole section of the back garden where she planted packets of wildflower seeds, and they just never knew what would come up. Dan later talked about how daisies were her favorite flowers.
That's so wholesome.
I love that. A potluck garden. 2 years after Nathan was born, the couple welcomed a daughter named Amanda. Aw, Amanda. Nathan was like his mother, Sandy Smith said, thoughtful and strong. He was his mother's son, and he thought that she was the most special mother in the world. When Sarah had Amanda, Amanda was a miniature version of her mother. But Amanda's emotions were more on the surface. Dan and Sarah's time off work was spent with family and good friends. Friday nights were special to us, Dan said. We rented kids' movies and made popcorn, and we all bundled up in blankets on the living room couch. We usually fell asleep there. Sometimes in the summer, we went for drives on Friday nights. One night, at her in-laws' house, Sarah attended a farewell party for the in-laws' foreign exchange students at their pool. Sarah wore a bikini, and Sandy recalled that even though Sarah looked stunning, she revealed to Sandy how inadequate she felt with small breasts. She bemoaned the fact that despite having 2 children, she was still small. She told Sandy to remember her in that suit as she was planning to have augmentation surgery. A friend of hers at college had recommended this plastic surgeon who was doing a new, less invasive technique. It would be in and out, and voila, she would have more self-confidence. Dan, and I love this guy, Dan, remembers being confused about why on earth Sarah would want to do this, because he thought she was perfect just as she was. But he wanted to support her and all of her desires, so he went along with her plans. Sarah received a promotion at work 6 months earlier, and so she saved the extra money to afford the surgery. When she first met Dr. Pignataro for her initial consultation, she was impressed. He told her, what a great candidate she was for his new technique. Dan later recalled, he told her he was going to charge more for it eventually, but since it was a new technique, he was prepared to give her an excellent price. What a salesman. Dr. Pignataro noted on her chart that he'd done a thorough workup on Sarah, although he had not done anything. He didn't do any x-rays or check her heart rhythms with an EKG. These are all crucial tests to do before undergoing anesthesia. He told her testing was not necessary because she was under 40. So Sarah signed the consent forms, agreeing to the risks of surgery, and her surgery was scheduled for August 25th, 1997 at 9:30 a.m. Pre-surgical screenings for any surgery requiring general anesthesia require a basic evaluation of the patient's heart and lungs. This is because the medications that allow patients to sleep throughout the procedure can also affect the heart's rhythm, which an EKG would identify beforehand. A chest X-ray is also required because these studies can easily catch subclinical pneumonias and rare tumors. Her age didn't change the fact that her surgery was complicated, and Anthony's failure to screen her was negligent. On Friday, August 22nd, Dan and Sarah hosted a movie night popcorn campout in the living room with their children. It breaks my heart. Right there. It was almost Labor Day. School would start for Nathan soon, and Amanda would start preschool. On August 25th, Dan drove Sarah to Pignataro's office for her appointment. Almost immediately, she was taken to a back room and given a variety of pills meant to relax her. Then she was returned to the waiting room, which was surprising to Dan because the meds had clearly affected her and she was woozy and drowsy. But then things got even stranger. As his wife was led behind a closed door, Anthony insisted that Dan leave the waiting room. Dan resisted, stating he preferred to wait right where he was. Anthony came back several times and repeated himself, urging Anne, go do errands, come back later. So feeling pressured, Dan finally left. Then Sarah was taken to the basement surgery, where Anthony only had a blood pressure cuff and a pulse oximeter, which he told his wife to watch. There was no heart monitor, and additionally, there were no devices available to maintain her airway and deliver oxygen during the procedure. As anesthetics administered improperly can slow or stop breathing, leading to death. It's imperative that the medical team closely monitor and assist a patient's respiration when they're under anesthesia. Dr. Pignataro would have known this. It's surgery 101. However, he proceeded with the procedure nonetheless without any of these safeguards in place. He gave Sarah a cocktail of drugs that he hoped would keep her asleep for the next couple of hours while he operated on her. During the first hour, Sarah's face began to lose color. Debbie pointed this out to her husband, who told her to remove Sarah's fingernail polish and examine her nail beds. Pignataro didn't look up from what he was doing as he made the incision at her belly button and moved the tube-like device into it to create a pathway to her breast. Debbie tried to alert him again, but he ignored her. Then the pulse ox alarm went off. Her O2 levels were low, so Anthony barked at the LPN to hook up the EKG, which showed a flat line. She was in state of cardiac and respiratory arrest with a doctor with no crash cart, no intubation kit, and not a single registered professional around him to assist. Anthony instructed his teenage intern to call 911, and within 5 minutes, sirens roared into the parking lot outside the West Seneca practice. When EMTs entered the basement surgery, they were horrified to discover Anthony trying to secure Sarah's airway with a wire coat hanger. This is so dangerous and stupid. Medics delivered CPR and shocked Sarah's heart into beating before taking her to the hospital. But by the time they loaded her into the ambulance, she'd been without oxygen for 19 to 20 minutes. She slipped into a coma in the emergency room. EMTs later described how obstructive, in a way, and clueless Dr. Pignataro had been. And like the dumbass in episode 20, apparently it is episode 20 because they wrote it in here, he tried to throw himself into the ambulance with Sarah and was kicked out. What is it with these guys?
It's probably like, I'm going to be able to talk my way out of this if I can control the narrative on the drive or something like that. Don't you think? It's got to be a narcissistic drive of sorts.
Right? Because I had to keep looking back at your episode going, am I telling the same story? Because some of this stuff was just so crazy that it's eerie that they behaved in the same way. But you're right, it's probably to do with this narcissism. But poor Dan, the husband, he had no idea that any of this was happening. And Anthony refused to take responsibility, so he told his wife that she was the one that needed to tell Dan that his wife was in critical condition and in the hospital. Can you imagine? Poor Debbie. So she said, Dan, I mean, she's had no training on how to do this. She was like, I was
just gonna take off the nail polish to check the nail beds. I'm still in shock about that. We have nothing actually here for anesthesia, but we've got some fucking nail polish so we can watch your nail beds.
I know. And she had faith that her husband was a good doctor. I mean, she didn't know. I'm sure she didn't know half the stuff he was up to. She said, we've had a little problem. Your wife was not breathing, but she's breathing now. She's on the way to the hospital. I'll drive you. It wasn't until and in the book, Last Dance, Last Chance by Anne Rule, she mentions that Dan was like, well, I can drive myself. Why do I need to be driven? But he realized as he was being driven, it was because, he got this sense of doom. And then he got to the hospital and a priest came out to greet him. Yeah. And then he realized the enormity of the situation. He was taken to see Sarah in the ICU. She was comatose with tubes and a ventilator coming out of her body. He said it was like somebody grabbed my ankles. I fell on my knees with shock. I realized then. When he contacted his mother, Sandy, all he could do was yell, she's flatlining, she's flatlining. The first thought that Sandy had was, oh my God, Sarah's parents have lost their son and now they're dying.
Gosh, yeah, I forgot about the brother. I'm also like, have a priest available by all means and like near in case, but like, let's not be greeting at the door. We don't need to be going into panic mode before we're already entering her ICU room. Like in that situation, I would have like already blacked out before I even got there. I wouldn't even remember going in the room, which maybe would be a good thing. I don't know.
Yeah. God. That's like throwing a Kleenex box at patients.
Yeah, that would be bad, wouldn't it?
The bad news. Terrible. So the rescue team reported the tragedy to the West Seneca Police Department. Thank God they did that because they were like, this basement surgery center was not a thing. They're like, it was ill-equipped It was lacking basic and proper tools to ensure patient safety. This can't
they
be
did
allowed.
have nail polish
So,
removal, so I mean, most ORs
Yeah,
don't
I
have
mean,
that, so they've got that going for them.
most ORs won't let them in until that stuff's been done.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? You can't wear nail polish to a surgery. Anyway, knowing that his time was limited, Anthony accelerated his surgery schedule. I wish they could have just made him stop right away, but he was like, I got to get as much money as possible before they take my license away. So God forbid he actually learn anything about the tragedy that he just propagated through his dangerous and negligent practices. Nope. Let's go, gangbusters. No lesson to learn here, folks. It's time to make the money. So that's what he did. We're going to take a break from this revolting story, and we're going to do I don't know, can you do... Yeah. It sounds like a boat horn. Let's do that again.
All I can think about is living in Duluth now.
I'm going to try and ready? Yes, a fairy noise. Ready?
But are we saying chart, or are we just doing boat noises?
We're saying chart now. Ready? No, we're doing chart now. No. Chart now. It's horrible. I love it. I'm sorry.
Yeah, wow. Geez, thanks.
Anyway, welcome to chart.
She's like, wow, that was horrible. Awesome.
Welcome.
Exploiting my germs.
Like what I did to you. No, listen, your foghorn was great.
Hopefully my baritone masks yours, I guess.
So, welcome to Chart Notes, where we look at what's new, weird, and potentially life-saving in healthcare. Who put weird in there?
I was going to say, that's
script
new.
When I wasn't looking. I don't remember writing that. Was there a little fairy that got in there and put the word weird? All right. Well, we're going to look at what's new, weird, and potentially life-saving. No. You didn't do that? That was in my template.
No, but the next part, read the next part. Is that why it says weird?
So you don't have to scroll through PubMed at 2 a.m.?
I thought that you were saying, like, this is where you found it, scrolling PubMed at 2 a.m.
Wow. There's been a little AI fairy maybe into our chart note situation, which is interesting because it's all about healthcare and AI updates. So not only have they messed with our template, but there's some other stuff going on. So, okay, AI, I'm going to talk about a few different things just quickly, but AI gets a stethoscope upgrade. So forget the old rub and listen. Researchers in the UK developed an AI-powered stethoscope that can detect heart failure, atrial fibrillation, and valve disease in 15 seconds. That means you might walk into a clinic complaining of just a little fatigue and walk out knowing that the precise difference between I need a nap and my heart's quite leading up. So, of course, the doctors caution, it's fast, it's smart, but it's not a replacement for a cardiologist. But humans still get the final say. Number 2 for AI and healthcare update, a digital twin for your heart and maybe more. So, Ta-ta, ta-ta, T-A-T-A, ta-ta Consultancy Services debuted a digital twin heart. It's a virtual AI-powered replica of your actual heart, running data from MRI scans and real-time sensors to monitor your recovery or warn of trouble. Think of Iron Man's suit, but for your circulatory system. So early tests with marathon runners showed that it can spot subtle signs of stress, inefficiency, or damage that might not trigger alarms until much later. In the not-too-distant future, this might be a wearable health tech device giving your cardiologist early warnings before your heart decides to stage a mutiny. Number 3, stroke diagnosis fast-tracked. In England, stroke centers are now using a new AI CT scan tool that slashes the time from hospital arrival to treatment from 140 minutes to just 79. Since time is brain is more than a saying, it's literally how many brain cells you can save. This has tripled the rate of stroke patients recovering with little or no long-term disability. This is amazing. So, in other words, patients are walking out of the hospital with fewer limp arms and fewer regrets about ignoring that nagging headache. It seems a little cavalier, that last comment. But honestly, yeah, to basically cut the time from hospital arrival to treatment
Yeah.
in half, that's amazing. Yeah. Number 4, the FDA has just greenlit Amvuttra, which is a drug by Al- Alnylam for treating a rare but deadly condition called transthyretin cardiomyopathy. Until now, people with this disease have often had limited options and survival rates have been grim. Amvuttra works by reducing the production of the mutant protein that builds up in the heart, helping to slow or even reverse damage. It's not cheap, so there's a 6-figure price tag per injection, but for patients and families facing a bleak prognosis, this is a significant leap forward. Number 5, entire body scans. Again, in the UK, it's our UK. I mean, what? They're the size of Chicago. They're doing all the
It's
AI
so
medical
smart over
research.
there.
Good for you guys. You guys are so smart. In the UK, researchers have completed a massive project, full body imaging of 100,000 volunteers, combined with genetic, lifestyle, and health data. So the result is 1 billion anonymized scans that are teaching us wild new things like early signs of dementia that can show up as tiny brain-sized changes, or how fat distribution. I just get mad when I read about fat. Okay. Or how fat distribution matters more than BMI. Okay. Well, that's true. Like where the fat is
I don't know if it's a typo. It's real life.
when
I'm
you
going to
predict
Google it
heart
while you talk.
disease. Okay. Number 6, precision medicine meets gene editing. The frontier of personalized medicine continues to expand. Genomics and artificial intelligence are now being used to tailor treatments to a patient's genetic profile, particularly in cancer, rare diseases, and chronic illnesses. In some cases, CRISPR gene editing is being tested in patients with inherited blood disorders with the ultimate goal of achieving a one-time functional cure. Add to that the rise of continuous remote monitoring in wearables and sensors, and we're inching towards a healthcare model that doesn't merely treat disease, it tries to predict it, prevent it,
Anytime
and
we don't
neutralize
feel
it
smart, though, we
before
can
you
just
even
remember that we
notice it.
graduated without AI.
We graduated
Well, the other
without
day I
anyone to
asked
summarize
if
stuff or give us.
I found this recipe that I wanted to make, but it was a gluten-free recipe, and I don't have to be gluten-free, so I don't own like the flour to make things gluten-free. So I asked, I'm like, how do I make this
How do I
yummy?
make this glutinous?
No, like to avoid buying more flour, can I sub
No, but that stuff's
all-purpose flour
expensive.
for this? And I got this ginormous breakdown of like, for baked goods, typically yes. For like, if you're trying to thicken things or like whatever, it was like a whole detailed thing about like different things you're trying to do with flour, if it will work or not, and why not. So I was like, wow, thank you.
So like the
Yeah.
science behind it. Yeah.
And
it's
then
good
they
for some
happened to
things.
notice that
Yeah.
all the measurements for the recipe were in grams, and it must know I'm not from that side of the pond. And it said, would you like me to convert these for you? So I said, sure. Thank you so much.
Yeah, see, there you go.
I'm almost 40
well,
though.
you're not over 40, but
oh my God. That
yeah,
sounds so weird
I'm
to
just
say
like,
that.
okay, I need to take this class.
Oh,
Yeah,
God.
but you're not. So stop it. And also, I just want to take the class so I can be like, okay, I know what's going downtown.
Down.
I mean, damn.
I've got no business here.
Okay, so can you
ever?
But like, could you go to AI and be like, okay, here's a couple of graphs. What can you pull out of this that's meaningful?
Probably.
Crunch the data for me. I mean, that kind of stuff would be great because it'll save time. I don't have to learn how to use Adobe, whatever the hell.
The Adobe app that never
and
loads.
I can learn some stuff.
I don't know what's going on with Adobe.
Yeah.
It's never worked well.
Yes. Yeah.
Adobe Acrobat. Get a life.
Get a life. Well, they're doing all these ads now where it's like Acrobat can do
never
this
loads.
and that and that and that, and it's stuck in my head. I'm like, but what is it actually doing for me? Okay, but Any hoozle.
Also, where are you in your life where you've
that's
seen
a
ads
problem for
about Acrobat?
I think I was on Peacock watching a sitcom. Honestly, if you want to know, there's a spin-off of The Office called The Paper, and I binge watched it yesterday in its entirety. And, I think it's pretty good. I think the characters are growing on me. But yeah, we had some ads about Acrobat, and it stuck in my head. So, yeah. Little earworms that they were.
I'm not going to be able to go that
Shall we
low
go
again.
back to the case? Yeah. Maybe we can use that as like a little snippet and just like keep playing it. I can just play key and
I'll try
Amanda's like gravelly
one at the end.
baritone voice.
You can clip that.
Go to the case.
See, now I'm feeling the pressure.
5 hours. 5 hours later.
Literally, this probably feels like 5 hours. People are probably like, skip.
Skippity. What is it? Skippity toilets?
Wow. You have teenagers.
Yeah. The kids?
Yeah.
The kids these days.
I went to Skippity Skippity.
I went to Skippity toilets. I still don't know what it means, but whatever. I mean, I'm in like Flint. Well, I can't say that. All right. So we're going to go back to the case. I'm trying to avoid it because I really hate this guy. Oh, we're off the rails this time. All right. So let's go back, and we're talking about this doofus. Officers reached him at his practice for questioning, but Anthony was vague. What a surprise. He said he'd sedated Sarah with a local anesthetic and something that would make her sleep just randomly something that would make her sleep before he started surgery. He stated he was concerned about the pulse ox alarm and conjectured that perhaps she took something before coming to his office that she hadn't told him about. When questioning got uncomfortable, he bowed out, claiming, I got patients waiting for me. Classic. On Monday, September 1st, 1997, Dan had to make the devastating decision to pull the plug on Sarah. She would be I know, it's terrible. She would be a vegetable her whole life. She was brain dead. He felt that she was already gone, and she wouldn't want the shell of her existence to be kept alive like this. Dan later told the media that at Sarah's memorial service, he overheard their little girl, Amanda, telling one of her friends that their moms died when they were 26. So they better be prepared because that was going to happen to their moms too. I mean, I'm crying. Oh, baby girl. So now we have a homicide investigation. And the case was escalated from a local police matter to a case for the district attorney's office. Seasoned detectives Pat Finity and Chuck Craven were pulled on as lead detectives for the DA. They didn't waste time and began interviewing key witnesses. I was like, they didn't waste time interviewing key witnesses? They did. And it wasn't a waste of time. They didn't waste any time. They began immediately. What really propelled the investigation forward, however, was the testimony from the 22-year-old LPN who had been at the scene. So imagine these two old seasoned Irish detectives. And they're like, dude, she was a little dim.
My name's Chuck.
This LPN, licensed practical nurse. And she didn't seem to know what any medical terms like scalpel and ambu bag. She called it an amber bag. And they were like, what is an amber bag? But eventually they were able to scrape together revealing details of what actually transpired. So on the day of Sarah's surgery, Anthony gave Sarah 20 milligrams of Valium and then directed his nurse to administer 6 cc's of sodium pentothal in 3 cc's of Versed,
I'd
which
be like,
is a narcotic.
see you next Thursday.
So
bye.
Yeah, I'm out. And this was before he sent her back to the lobby. It's like, holy cow. So she's just sitting there like, woo. Was she in a gown with things flapping in the breeze? Like, come on. What? I don't know.
Probably.
Anyway, I guess.
Her belly button.
So combining.
I know, but she would have been
this is before the surgery. He gave her these pills. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. No, I mean, normally, who knows at Pignataro's surgery.
So combining. Oh, God. Combining CNS depressants is always potentially dangerous. Valium is used for anxiety, and sodium pentothal is a quick-acting hypnotic. Versed acts like a sedative. So using the 3 together when supervised by a trained anesthesiologist is potentially safe, but definitely lethal in the hands of someone like Anthony. This was bad enough. But then the nurse told investigators that before the surgery began, Anthony told her to give Sarah a second dose of sodium pentothal through her IV port. Minutes later, as Dr. Pignataro began his incision into her belly button, Sarah yelled, ouch. So that, let that sink in. She could feel it. So then Anthony told his nurse to give a third dose of sodium pentothal through her port. So even to investigators who weren't well versed in medicine, it seemed like a high amount of substances, especially given Sarah's petite frame. A few weeks later, the medical examiner shared Sarah's toxicology report results. It confirmed their suspicions. An excessive amount of sodium pentothal and other substances had caused asphyxiation. Sarah's death was the direct result of the drugs that Anthony Pignataro had given her during her procedure, and then failing to secure her airway sealed the deal. It's so senseless. When the media got hold of the story, patients of Dr. Pignataro began coming forward with their own catastrophic stories. Among them was Terry Lamotti, the last patient to experience Anthony's malpractice and survive. That was enough for the DA to secure a search warrant. And while Anthony wasn't at his practice, investigators got inside. Like many patients before them, they descended the basement steps and found an unequipped makeshift surgery, a single chair set haphazardly at the center with a light to help Pignataro see during operations. There were a few items connected to wires and very little sterilization equipment, and no emergency kits around. One might expect to find a similar setup in a stage play where an actor performs as a physician. For a real doctor, the scene practically screamed malpractice. And there was another red flag. Along the walls of Anthony's office, diplomas hung proudly in frames, creating a picture of the perfect professional. But Pat and Chuck weren't so quick to trust them. They rang the institutions listed, and call after call, the same news came back. Nobody had given Anthony Pignataro any of those diplomas. And this single shocking truth upended the entire investigation. Not only had this guy killed an innocent woman by improperly medicating and caring for her, but he also screwed up on a handful of other patients without so much as an honest certification. As back alley doctors go, this guy was as fake as they come, but his farce met its foil. On January 27, 1998, Anthony was indicted before a grand jury on 6 counts: manslaughter in the second degree, assault in the second degree, falsifying business records in the first degree, reckless endangerment in the second degree, criminal possession of a forged instrument in the third degree, and criminally negligent homicide. Though Anthony wanted to fight for his innocence, his attorneys told him that going to trial was going to lead to more prison time. So they urged him to plead guilty. With his name on the line, Anthony wavered. It was clear to the public that he'd made mistakes as a doctor, but he wasn't sure he was willing to own up to what he'd done. Admitting where he'd been wrong had never been his game. Throughout the spring of 1998, 39-year-old Anthony Pignataro faced a difficult decision: accept a plea deal or go to trial on significant charges, including the criminally negligent homicide of 26-year-old Sarah Smith. On June 8, 1998, he made up his mind. He pleaded guilty, waiving his right to appeal his sentence and relinquishing his medical licenses. This wasn't exactly a huge sacrifice, given that most of his credentials were fake, or at the very least exaggerated. So 3 months later, on August 4th, he was sentenced to 6 months in jail, 5 years of probation, 250 hours of community service, and a $2,500 fine. For killing a woman, that was nothing. But still, that made Pignataro the first doctor in Western New York history convicted of homicide for a patient's death. The judge snarled at him, "You will never practice medicine again anywhere in the world." To recap, Pignataro was stripped of his medical license, convicted of second-degree manslaughter, negligent homicide, and more, and was sentenced to only 6 months in jail and 5 years probation. 6 months! That's barely enough time to watch 5 true crime documentaries about your own trial. Victim Terry Lamarty gasped when she learned the news, watching this miscarriage of justice. Later on, she asked with heartbreak and outrage, he's getting away with this? And yet, somehow, Anthony still had the loyalty of his wife. While he had made some mistakes, Debbie still believed he was a good guy. It was a lie she'd clung to for 20 years. Debbie trusted that the latest obstacles would change her family for the better, even if they now made her the wife of a convicted felon. Maybe in her mind, some jail time might make him a reformed man and they could finally work on their marriage.
How sad is that?
When 40-year-old Anthony, I know, right? And they say it takes the average victim of intimate partner violence, whether it's emotional or physical abuse, 11 years
so sad
to get out once they realize. Yeah. So I forget where I was. So when 40-year-old Anthony was discharged from prison on December 7th, 1998, Debbie had hope. And Anthony sat on the couch watching videos of his son's junior high school football games or nurturing their gymnast daughter. He appeared to be renewed. For his community service hours, he decided to volunteer at a therapeutic writing center that serves individuals from underrepresented backgrounds and those with disabilities. This was a cherry on top. I'm sorry, my phone is doing funny things. Okay. This was a cherry on top of the new and improved Anthony, but it was merely another act. Just a week after he returned from jail, Debbie got a letter. In it, the news that Anthony was having an affair. The relationship had begun before he went to prison and continued after his release. This wasn't the first time that he cheated on her, and Debbie had forgiven him in the past, but she just wasn't sure she could do the same this time. She held her tongue, biding her time and sorting out how she'd respond. On the one hand, she wanted her children to continue living the lives they knew, and she wasn't sure if she could support them on her own. On the other hand, Anthony's behavior had once again shattered their marriage, despite his claim that he was a changed man. As she pored over her options, Debbie wondered if there were other things her husband was hiding from her. On their bank statements, she soon found that Anthony was making regular $100 mystery withdrawals from their account. Desperate for answers, Debbie did more digging and found Anthony's mistress's home address. One day in February 1999, she decided to pay a visit, but when she pulled up, she saw their family Cadillac parked in the driveway. Upset, Debbie drove the car home, leaving her. So she got in the Cadillac that the asshole had driven there and left her car. So she left her car for Anthony to find when he decided to head home. But that evening, he didn't come home. Coward. Instead, he called his wife and he tried to tell her, it's not what it looks like. The excuse rang empty.
I hate it when my Cadillac just parks itself in the wrong place.
The excuse rang empty in Debbie's ears. Anthony pushed her too far this time. She had all the locks changed on the house to ensure that he couldn't come back unless he demonstrated a willingness to change. She also withdrew all the money from their joint account. Even worse, Anthony's mom found out about his affair and threatened to cut him off from his dad's estate if he left Debbie. Anthony didn't like the sound of that, so he did what he always did when he was in a pinch. He devised a scheme. Debbie's house was vandalized, and he came over to protect the family. Debbie felt safer with him around. On one such occasion, the vandals scrawled, "Killer, killer, killer," in spray paint on the garage door. What she didn't know was that Anthony was likely the one doing the defacing, and if so, it had the intended effect. Cornered by fear, Debbie was more lenient about letting Anthony spend the night. By June, Anthony was over regularly, but it was around this time that Debbie fell sick. She felt excruciating pain in her stomach, and while doctors suspected it might be pancreatitis, they couldn't be sure. Ultimately, Debbie was sent home from the hospital with more questions than answers, and as the summer heat rose, so did her mystery illness. She developed soreness and numbness all over her body and found it harder to remember things. Some days she couldn't even make it out of bed. And when that happened, her husband would bring her food. The food never tasted right, though. There was always a metallic flavor that tainted almost everything she ate. And she grew weaker and weaker, and physicians racked their brains trying to figure out what on
I
earth was
hate
going
him.
on.
I hate him.
But
I
then
did
she
not
started
see this
feeling,
coming.
I hate him
This
so
is the
much.
twist, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah.
Ah, I'm so mad.
I'm mad too. But then she started feeling weak, numb, her coordination failing, and symptoms that doctors couldn't explain. The tests came back. Arsenic levels were sky high, some of the worst ever seen in New York State. Forensic analysis of Debbie's hair samples showed a slow but steady increase in arsenic until one section of her hair showed that what should have been a fatal dose. And that timeline they could trace back, this is amazing. They could trace that timeline in her hair sample back to the night that Anthony told her, to Debbie's surprise, "Oh, you don't look like you feel well. You should rest. I'll bring you chicken soup." If only that was all she got, but it was soup with a side of arsenic. Investigators learned that Anthony had purchased
Oh
taro,
my
which is an
God.
ant killer with arsenic. And if it wasn't enough, I know. People in prison mentioned that they ratted on him. He's mounting an insurance scheme in a side room.
One of my
said one
psychos that I
informant.
covered in the past also used taro ant killer. Yes.
Really? That's crazy. He was asking around in prison, like, have you ever
Apparently,
poisoned someone?
that's what they're like. Fuck yeah, taro ant killer. Apparently,
They're
that's
like,
common
get
knowledge.
this ant killer. So Debbie told 7 Eyewitness News, "You don't want to believe that your spouse could be capable of something like this." After some digging, investigators Chuck and Pat learned about Anthony's latest affair and what a mess it had been. Then they found out that Anthony's mother had told him that he was going to lose his inheritance if he divorced Debbie. Next, they learned that Debbie had a $100,000 life insurance policy and her husband was the beneficiary. As far as new beginnings with his mistress were concerned, it made more sense for Anthony to kill Debbie than to leave her. However, it wasn't until an unexpected witness came forward that Chuck and Pat were able to confirm their theory. A man that's pseudonym Adam had come forward saying he spent time in jail with Anthony. And around that time, Anthony started doing heroin. And after both of them got released, they still met sometimes. Adam remembered Anthony bringing up the subject of poison and how annoyed his wife made him. He hated how constantly she checked on him. He even said, "Oh, Debbie has to go." Though Adam knew what that meant, he didn't think that Anthony was capable of murdering his own wife. When the news reports came out about Debbie's poisoning in August, he almost couldn't believe it. At the start of September, they also came into possession of Anthony's mistress, who confirmed a similar story. Meanwhile, Debbie tried her very best to remain loyal to the man who poisoned her. She didn't want to believe that he'd done it, but then a family member revealed that Anthony was still actively involved in his affair. And finally, it seemed that Debbie's unshakable devotion to her husband had been shattered. She was convinced that she had to let him go. Throughout the fall, Debbie remained in the hospital, undergoing extensive physical rehabilitation for the persisting numbness in her limbs. Although the majority of Debbie's symptoms were abating, her numbness persisted and worsened. Intestinal symptoms like pain, nausea, and diarrhea are usually temporary, and doctors often stop investigating the cause after those symptoms resolve. Arsenic's toxic effects on the nerves, however, become irreversible after 1 to 4 weeks of repeated exposure. This is a result of arsenic's ability to cause cellular death in the body's peripheral nerves. So during her long days spent trying to regain mobility in her body, Debbie finally had time to consider how she'd like to move forward. It wouldn't be hard to get Anthony charged with their poisoning. The DA, investigators Chuck and Pat, now had substantial evidence. Plus, Anthony had broken his probation, which said he had to stay drug and alcohol free and couldn't leave the county without consent from the courts. In the months following his release from jail, Anthony had been drinking large quantities of tequila, and his friend Adam admitted that they'd done heroin together at times. Anthony had crossed state lines without permission to attend a job interview and made plans to move to Florida to start a new life there. On February 1st, 2000, he was sentenced to the maximum prison term of 15 years for attempting to poison his wife. Pathetic. I mean, she should have died from the amount that he gave her. Like, doctors were, couldn't believe that she survived this lethal dose. I mean, she was paralyzed, immobile, and in a wheelchair, but she survived. Ultimately, he was convicted of several crimes, including attempted murder. Anthony tried to keep in contact with his son while he was locked up, but the damage to their relationship was irreparable. Ralph did end up writing to his father, but that letter was to ask his father to do right by their family for once. In December 2013, Anthony was released from his sentence early for good behavior, snort, and he moved to Florida, where he settled in the Palm Beach area and changed his name to Anthony Haute, Haute. Like a bad sequel that nobody asked for, he immediately set about reinventing himself. He moved to Florida to shed his old name like a snakeskin, rebranding, and under this shiny new persona, he launched Tony Haute Cosmetique and Skincare LLC. Glamorous, right? In reality, it was the same old Pignataro hustle, just with palm trees. He started selling miracle creams and something he dubbed DNA, which were plasma treatments, which, spoiler alert, was pseudoscience in a jar. And naturally, he did what all disgraced fake doctors do when they want to look legit. He threw on a crisp white lab coat, struck a pose, and introduced himself as Dr. Haute. Imagine Dr. Oz meets late-night infomercial, only with fewer credentials and way more felony baggage. It was classic Pignataro, an endless parade of deception. In 2019, he advertised his services as a qualified carer for the elderly. Would you want this buffoon with a body count looking after your granny? I don't think so. Hopefully nobody took him up on the offer. You can change your name, change your identity, but you can't change your rap sheet. As a judge once told Anthony, your life to me has been a charade of misrepresentation, self-centered, manipulative disrespect for the value of human life, end quote. So, Alley Katz, thanks for joining this unnervingly outrageous tale of malpractice, murder, poison, and identity theft. Stay skeptical of bargain procedures, basement clinics, and suit after breakups.
That plot twist I did not see coming. But then the double plot twist of Debbie turning him in. Then I was like, fuck yeah, Debbie. Debbie
yes,
go.
Debbie
Dang,
go.
What a loser.
Yeah, and it just goes to show, like, I mean, this wasn't that long ago, guys. It's just a handful of years ago. So I'm not against elective procedures. Do what makes you feel good about yourself, but please make sure that your practitioners are board certified. Look them up online. Don't just take the thing hanging on the wall in the office. And then, check out what their practices are. Is their clinic actually licensed to be a surgical center? Because that's not a small thing. And yet, this wasn't the first case we've talked about where people just do stuff to people in their basements.
These people exist. It's so crazy.
Absolutely crazy.
Eek.
Oh. I mean, I feel like we were talking about old times, but
I was like
5 years
gosh,
ago.
When did this take place? And then you would say a year. I'm like, okay, that was not that long ago. And then he got out of prison in 2013, guys. That's not that long ago.
He's out there now. And in 2019, he's like advertising, I'll take care of your granny. I'll take care of old people. Yeah, no, he's out there. So, but he's got a different name. So don't let anybody named Dr. Anthony Haute, Haute, look after anyone you care about.
Floridians,
so
be careful.
There's that. Right. So our second sponsor of the day, I'm just going to jump in, is Old Glory. It's the ultimate destination for officially licensed merchandise, offering over 300,000 items for music, sports, entertainment, and pop culture fans. And they've been going since 1969. And I will tell you, I have found all kinds of fascinating things, apparel, movies, lifestyle brands for people that you just don't know what to get. You know what they like, but they have everything. Everyone can get anything these days on Amazon. So what's wonderful about this is you can really pinpoint what somebody is into and get them something unique that they never would have expected. So something they never even knew they wanted. And you can do that, dear listeners, by using our special promo code. So you go to oldglory.com and use our promo code Stay Suspicious. I know that's a shock. Stay Suspicious.
The suspense is killing me. What is
Suspicious. STAYSUSPICIOUS for 15% off any product which is exclusive to our Doctoring the Truth listeners. You're welcome. So now it's time for a medical mishap. And this is an email. Normally I would have Amanda read it, but if you're scratching. Okay. I will read it. Okay. So this email says, Dear Amanda, Jenna, and Alley Cats. Alley Cats. I absolutely love the pod. Oh, bless. I've been a listener practically from day one, and I can't wait for Wednesdays to play the new episode during my lunch hour. Oh, good.
I was going to say,
hope it doesn't put people off their lunch.
Sorry for those days that you can't do it all in one lunch hour.
Yeah, also, how much lunch do you get? Because we're probably 5 minutes past your lunch hour at this point. But, okay, so you should know I play it on a Bluetooth. Oh, no. You should know I play it on a Bluetooth speaker in the break room, and we all gather around to hear the latest episode, gasping and sometimes laughing at the stories you tell. Oh,
that's not the first time we've heard that either, though, Jenna.
I wanted to write from the... No, I know. We're going off in the... Moida in the lunchroom. I wanted to write from the beginning, but it took a bit of courage and overcoming procrastination. I get you so for real. But I did it. Yay, you did it. So here it goes. I've been a nurse in a rehab unit for years, and you'd be amazed at the things that patients misplace. Phones, slippers, wedding rings, but nothing prepared me for the great denture disappearance. One morning, Mr. L, a sweet older gentleman recovering from hip surgery, starts panicking because his dentures are missing. So we tear the room apart, bedding, drawers, the trash, nothing. We even check the laundry bins because stranger things have happened. But by lunchtime, the whole unit is on denture. I love this. The whole unit is on denture watch. His roommate swears that he saw Mr. L chewing something earlier. Which is he chewing his own denture? Which did not help the mystery. Finally, after hours of searching, a dietary aide comes running down the hall, holding a sealed cup of vanilla pudding from the breakfast tray. And inside, bobbing like a tiny shipwreck, were the dentures. Mr. L had apparently taken them out, tucked them into his pudding for safekeeping, and then promptly forgot and sent the tray back. When we brought them to him, he just popped them back in and grinned at us with vanilla pudding still dripping off the edges and said, "You found my treasure." The entire staff lost it. From then on, whenever we couldn't find something, we joked, "Check the pudding." That's so gross too. Mr. L healed just fine, dentures and all, but the image of that dental treasure floating in pudding will haunt me forever. I can imagine. She says, "Keep doing what you're doing. Your stories educate and illuminate the issues surrounding healthcare, which is essential for everyone to be aware of. Thank you for reading this, even if it doesn't make it on the pod." Oh, but it did.
June.
Yours truly, June.
Thank you, June.
Thank you, June. Dentures in pudding. Now I'm going to double check my pudding cups before I dive in.
Guys, put them in a safe place.
Right?
This is not include a pudding cup. He's probably like, they'll be nice and secure in here. They won't slide off because there's stuff in the pudding.
Yeah. But also I don't feel like eating the pudding, so let's just send that back.
Yuck.
Oh my goodness. Well, that was quite an episode.
No,
do we know what we can expect next week, Amanda, or do you need some time?
No, I don't know. I don't know what we're doing.
Heart. I know what whatever
Honestly,
it is will be
I'm
good.
Like so busy at work right now, and I'm like reports behind, and I'm like, I don't know. It's gonna be a surprise to all of us. Summer break is over, guys.
Yeah. Well, we get that. Listen, we put a lot of heart and soul and time and effort into this for you, dear listeners. So if you're interested in continuing to follow Doctoring the Truth wherever you enjoy your podcasts, for stories that shock, intrigue, and educate. Please download, rate, and review wherever you listen to your podcasts. We need that. We need to show that we're out there, and we keep getting personal, which I love, personal texts and emails and whatever, but we need you to actually get out there on the sites that you're listening to this stuff on and actually rate and review all good stuff, of course, right? About how much you love us and what you like and what you want to hear, so that we can continue doing this, but, maybe in a more public
Are we
way.
ready to go public, guys?
We
It's
love our
episode
followers.
31.
You guys are awesome. I mean, 31. We're like living the dream. 30s are the best years ever. Would you agree, Amanda?
I've not made it out of the 30s yet, but I would say it's been definitely my favorite decade.
No, you haven't. I'm not saying. Yeah, they were my favorite decade. That's the long behind. But dear listeners, please download, rate, review. Please don't be shy. It doesn't cost you anything, but it'll really, really, really boost our not only morale, but our ratings, and will help us keep this going. So with that, stay safe and stay suspicious.
I gotta stop doing that jingle because it's not ours. Goodbye.
Bye.
Sorry for all my sniffles. You're gonna have to edit out.